Hey folks, we are back live at Nicky T Live. My name is Nick Taylor, your host, and today I'm hanging out with, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Glauber Costa. Is that correct?
Glauber Costa, that's right.
All right, cool. Glauber, for folks that might not know you, would you mind just giving a quick intro, and maybe if you want to give, we don't have to go into a full long origin story, but if you want to just kind of maybe talk a
Yeah,
bit your journey in tech, and we can get
I'll
to it.
skip the big. I'll skip the Big Bang and rush out a couple of billion years into the future. But like, yeah, I'm Glauber. As Nick mentioned, super excited to be here. And I'm going to start by saying that I do not come from the JavaScript world. I don't understand. Nick was trying to teach me a couple of stuff before that. I mean, this is a lot of that is news to me. I come from a systems programming low level background. So I started my career around, I don't know if we should call it career at that time because it was mainly
Okay.
like me volunteering and doing stuff on my own free time out of college. But, let's count that around the year 2000 in the Linux kernel. And
Okay.
as I said, in the beginning, it was just like me super interested in that. Linux was like this new thing. Today's taken for granted. Back then, obviously, it wasn't. So I just took an interest, started hacking into the kernel around 2004, 2005. That was my first like what I consider a real job around Linux when I was hired by Red
Okay.
Hat.
Oh,
And
no
then I
way. Cool.
spent, yeah, and then and I've been, by the way, I've been remote this whole time. I'm saying that the world is finally catching up to me. And it was just the nature. It was just the nature of the job. Like Linux was this thing where it was a bunch of volunteers. It wasn't a company, and the work that we've done at Red Hat and in other company was just like, hey, you come here and you just keep doing. We're hiring you because you're doing good stuff in the Linux kernel. You just keep doing
Yeah.
it. So like I will not interfere with whatever you're already doing. So I've been remote since then, and so that was around 10 years, right? If
Okay.
so, I did this until 2013. 2013, I joined another company that started as a company trying to do something called the unikernel,
Okay.
which is essentially a special kernel that runs a single application. It's not like a full-fledged kernel like Linux. That was before Docker became a thing. And
Okay.
our idea was essentially like, look, we're all the people behind the KVM hypervisor that Amazon now runs to do like cloud computing. We understand this pretty well, and we believe that it's very inefficient to have Linux running as the hypervisor, which is essentially what it is, and then you boot up
Hmm.
another Linux in a virtual machine. So let's write a kernel just specialized for those virtual machines. That's super simple, only runs a single application, doesn't have like shared multi-processing or anything like that. It didn't
Okay.
quite work, and then we pivoted the company into a database company, and that's how I got into databases. Right, so I
Oh, okay.
spent
Okay.
again another, yeah, that was a database called Scylla, which was a NoSQL database, uh, focused on like petabyte scale workloads, millions, billions of transactions, per second sometimes,
Okay.
and queries, more accurate to say. And that's how I got into the database. Spent around 8 years doing that as well, and now in Turso, which is another database.
Yeah. No, that's super cool, and that sounds like a pretty awesome tech journey. Yeah. Like I haven't really been as involved in the Linux world as you, but I do
Yeah,
remember when I was at university. This is like one of the things we had to do is we had to recompile the Linux kernel. I think we had to create a driver for something, and it was in C at the time. I think nowadays, like
I
I
still
think
see.
the code, yeah, it's still C, but they're introducing Rust now. I believe that's kind of what
Yeah.
happened.
But like, and again, not full disclaimer here. It's not that I still follow the Linux kernel the way I followed back then. I still have a lot of friends from the community. That's a lot of people with
Okay.
whom I talk. So I get some of the news, but like back then, this was my life, right? So I knew everything that was going on. Right now, I don't. But the
Yeah.
Rust the
Yeah.
Rust thing is interesting. I think it's mostly now for you to write drivers, right?
Mm.
Just
Okay.
drivers. I've done drivers for, again, not professionally, but in this period of time there was like volunteering. Like I've done a little bit of reverse engineer of proprietary drivers, a little bit of like simple
Okay.
drivers here and there. But most of the core kernel, like, which is the part that really interested me, the scheduler, the memory management subsystem, the
Okay.
file systems and virtualization is where I spent like 90% of my career. That
Okay.
stuff, I think Rust will not get there that anytime soon. Just
Okay, yeah, just because there's so much in there, and yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
we'll
yeah,
see. I mean, I love Rust, by the way.
okay,
Again, Rust is a new thing for me. I've been doing Rust professionally uh, since 2020, right? So
okay, awesome.
and this is like I didn't mention that, but when I left Scylla, I spent a year at Datadog. 2020 was a
Okay,
crazy year for everybody, right? So just for me, like being in a
yeah,
big company, etc., I'm a builder. I like small stuff and startups and building. And at Datadog, I started doing Rust. I also wrote a sync executor for Rust called Glomio,
okay,
focusing on like this ability to write databases. Like if you try to write a database with Tokyo, for those of you who are familiar with Rust and the Rust ecosystem, like good luck to you. It's
okay,
pretty
okay,
hard for a variety of reasons. So I wrote an async executor focus on that called Glomio, and that was my first like foray into Rust. So and I've been loving Rust. At Turso we do a lot of Rust as well.
oh, cool.
But you know, just I think for the kernel, like the kernel is such a special piece, and it's not just about the technology. I mean, there's also just social aspects of the kernel. Is a bunch of
Hmm.
people writing C for 30 years. Like it's not.
Yeah, yeah,
It's hard. It's a hard sell. Like it just.
yeah, exactly. And it's always nice to refactor things, but you need to have business value, or like in this case, community value, perhaps.
Yeah,
It's it's pretty interesting, the Linux project, because like obviously it's used pretty much everywhere now, but
everywhere.
it's still amazing to me that it's open source. Like obviously you have people that contribute to it like financially, but it's I'm still amazed. Like it's like literally almost the entire internet is running off of Linux, and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's still open
Linux
source.
and
It's
Linux spoiled me because I when I was doing Linux, I had this idea. First of all, before I even started doing Linux,
mhm.
I took a social interest in at the time we called free software, right? Still, it's
Yeah,
still okay to call it free software, but like back then was this big debate: should this be called free software? Because and you know my view on it, free software is a correct term, but it was too associated at the time with Richard Stallman,
oh yeah,
which is
yeah,
a
yeah,
complete asshole. So I
yeah,
mean, I think the shift to like calling this open source was essentially an attempt to detach from that personal
okay,
figure. But you know, I
yeah,
took an interest in in the movement, and I started doing it. But like when I would talk to people about open source, I think I gave a lot of people very bad advice, which is um, one of the reasons I hate advice, by the way, because you ask 10 people and you get 12 different opinions, and it's always like,
yeah,
but like people would come to me with like advice about open source, and I would give them my advice as an experienced open source practitioner. But the problem
hmm,
is that I think I was completely spoiled by Linux. And I started to see this when I started working at Scylla. So Scylla, again, was an open source project, an open source
okay,
database. And one of the things that I noticed, for example, is that I don't think I tested my code that well when I was at Linux,
okay,
right? And it's not that I didn't try. Is this thing about like if you spend your whole life like with some gear that protects you from a lot of the accidents that you can have, and then you remove that gear, like so you have your car like that's
yeah,
full of airbags and etc. Then one day you're going to go like in a racing car. Lots of things are very different, right? So lots of
yeah,
you acquire some mannerisms that you did not even notice. So I had this instinctive idea, and I remember the day I noticed this, that like you obviously test stuff, but look, it's not that bad if there's a couple of bugs like before production,
hmm,
because you put your code out there, and in an hour, like if there is a bug in an hour, somebody's going to find it. Like
yeah,
this is almost laughable for me to say today because this is obviously not true. Like if you write some open source code and you put it out there, it's just buggy, right? But the
yeah,
thing is with Linux, the thing with Linux was that there were so many people running and testing and that yes, if there was a bug that escaped my, first of all, the review process of Linux is famously or infamously thorough. It's just a
yeah,
bunch of people nerd sniping on each other. So to get a patch through, like at the time we didn't call it PRs. You know, we didn't have PRs. Git was not a thing.
yeah,
Git was invented by the Linux community, right? By Linus.
yeah, yeah,
So you send a patch, and that patch is going to be discussed like in minutia by like a first of all by 10, 20 people that are
Yeah.
interested in the subset, especially when you're doing stuff like I was at the scheduler file system, which is like, if not a driver, like something that affects everybody. So 20 people are going to look at your code. That already flushes out most of the bugs. And then if there is a bug, in an hour you're going to have a bug report with somebody found the bug, and that's obviously not true for for most open source projects, right? But I think that
Yeah.
spoiled me a lot in the beginning of my career. Just to,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like I definitely agree we should test stuff, but I understand what
yeah,
you mean. It was so many eyes on it. Like I mean, it
yeah,
was being tested, but just
yeah.
not like
And
actual
and
written
my
tests.
my
Yeah.
mind, because I mean, I said that was my first thing into tech, right? So my mind associated that with open source, right?
Yeah.
Because it's open source, you have all of those eyes. Because it's open source, you have all of those people testing. But it's not just because it was open source. It was because it
Yeah.
was open source and because it run the world, and everybody was looking into that, right? Because it was Linux. It was a very special open source project. Like
Yeah,
saying
like
it's open source and making it open source doesn't magically grant you those powers.
yeah, for sure. And something like Linux is like literally foundational to everything that is out there. So if these low level things aren't working, like you said, people people will let you know pretty quickly.
Yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. No, that's awesome. The so speaking of Turso, maybe if you can give a kind of a quick like elevator pitch to folks who are just checking it out, maybe for the first time. I have a rough idea of what it is, but it'd be great to hear from you.
So quick elevator pitch is that Turso is an edge database. And what is an edge database? Is two things. First of all, is a database that can be accessed from the edge, which is
Hmm.
a quality that other databases share, because the edge is very restricted in how in by the way, I can see that there is chat going on, but the resolution is so bad, Nick, that I can't see the, so if
Okay,
there's
yeah,
anything interesting, I don't know if I can increase this resolution.
yeah. Let me
But
check
if
that
there's
out. Yeah,
anything interesting, just read it out to me. But
yeah,
like
for sure. That
that
was me
that
that
that gives
posted.
free range for people to just insult me. Like I won't see it. But yeah,
There is a quick question before you keep
yeah.
going on. Parasocial Fix is asking, is it like Dino KV or Vercel's new sequel offering?
Well, so if you use the word "or," then the answer is yes. But here's the thing: Dino KV, Dino
Yeah,
KV is like, so. Let me finish the explanation of what the Edge database is in
cool.
my
Yeah,
view.
for
Because
sure.
first of all, it has to be accessible from the Edge. The Edge is very restricted in that you usually cannot open TCP connections. It's only everything is HTTP or WebSockets, because all you from Cloudflare, for example, all you have is fetch. Now they're introducing more
Yeah.
stuff, but like traditionally the edge is a restricted environment. But the second thing is that your database. By the way, I just lost the whole thing now. By the way, I can see.
Yeah, that was me. I was trying to tweak
Yeah,
something. It's back.
yeah, yeah.
For
But the
people can't
second
see
thing
that, but
is
yeah.
that, yeah. The second thing is that like there's a lot of latency involving getting to that data. So one of the value propositions of the edge, the main value proposition of the edge, is that the compute is close to you.
Okay.
So if the database is far from you, like it doesn't matter that the computer is far from you, the round trip to the database is still going to make your whole experience slow, right?
Yeah.
So now answering that question, Dino KV is
Hmm.
a edge key value store in the sense that it exposes a key value interface to you, right? So
Yeah.
it's a key value store. It's a much simpler than a SQL database, but they do replicate the data a lot. For example, Vercel config, it's
Hmm.
fast from anywhere, but it's very limited in what it can do, right? Now, when you
Okay.
look at Vercel SQL, it is SQL, so it's the power of an actual SQL database. It's accessible from the edge,
Hmm.
but it's not massively replicated, at least not naturally. All of those databases, like you can add a concept of a read replica, but
Yeah.
Turso abstracts all of that, and essentially the database replicates to a bunch of locations without you having to worry about routing and about how to hit the right replica and how to make sure
Okay.
that your edge function is getting to the right place. So Turso is like Dino KV and or Vercel Edge, but as a mixture of them both. Because again, it gives you the
Yeah.
SQL aspects that is missing from Dino KV, but it gives you the massive replication aspect that is missing from Vercel SQL. Right?
Okay. And I'm I I've definitely worked with databases, but it's not like my something I do in my day to day, and I'm always curious, like especially on the edge, because and also Parasocial Fix says thank you for the explanation. Um, the like when you're replicating the data, like I get it when you're doing reads, it's like should be pretty quick, but like how fast are you able to replicate? Because like I'm just trying to think, like I'm in Montreal right now, somebody might be in San Francisco, somebody might be in New Zealand, like what is the latency like
Yeah,
realistically between all those nodes?
yeah. So one clarification, I think one most of the time the use cases at the edge are still read heavy.
Yeah.
Turso definitely assumes read heavy. Uh, if you go into write heavy, that's a completely different ballpark. That's the kind of stuff that we did at Scylla. So Scylla was a very write heavy
Okay.
database. You could write, for example, you could have 1 million writes a second or more.
Mm-hmm.
We had use cases like we had customers doing 10 million, 100 millions of writes a second.
Okay.
Very few, I think, very few use cases on Earth need that kind of stuff, right? But when you
Yeah.
when you need this kind of write volume, there is no way to do this without full eventual consistency, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay. Yeah.
eventual consistency is essentially like, hey, look, good luck, right? So you have to program your application in a way that says, look, the data. It's not that you can guarantee anything about the data, that there is some, but it's essentially like there's a lot more protections that you need to put in the application because you
Mm-hmm.
write. Eventual consistency will give you something like you write you one key and then you write you another key. Some of the replicas saw the update to only one of the keys, and the other replicas saw the update to the other key, and vice versa,
Okay.
right? So depending, it's a very complicated model for you to reason about. Again, for some applications, it's fine, but
Mm-hmm.
even for those applications, the application layer logic gets pretty complicated. Um,
Yeah.
so if you need like pardon my French, shitload of writes. I think that's the only model that works.
Okay.
You can use CRDTs, but CRDTs are essentially just a stronger version of eventual consistency. And we assume read heavy. So for read heavy, you can have more interesting models. And the model that we
Okay.
follow is a model called snapshot isolation. And what snapshot isolation gives you is that if you hit a replica that is, for example, in Sydney,
Yeah.
that replica can be a little bit behind.
Yeah.
But what you're going to see is snapshot consistent. And what that means is that we will never break a transaction boundary. So
Okay.
everything is transactional, right? So if you do a transaction, you will
Mm-hmm.
see the results of that transaction, either that or nothing. But it
Okay.
could be that a replica is a little bit behind, right?
Yeah.
So there is no way to there's geographical latency between those places.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Like yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, there's literally no magic to make it instant literally everywhere.
yeah,
It's like a pipe dream basically, but it's like pretty good regardless is what we're
yeah.
getting at. Okay.
But
Yeah.
but the thing about it, like that I find very interesting, is this: like you will have two things that I think make writing applications. And I mean, feel free to dive in the jargon if it's not clear. But like the two things that I think make this like a real SQL database are the snapshot isolation, because again, you will never
Okay.
read something that is not transactional. If you do like a begin transaction or end transaction and do like an update in between the transaction, everybody will
Yeah.
either see the whole thing or nothing. And
Yeah.
the second thing is what we call read your own rights consistency. So when
Okay.
from a connection, when you wrote something, if you
Mm-hmm.
read again, you will read what you wrote, right? Because again, in the
Yeah.
eventual consistency model, it can also happen that you don't necessarily read your own rights, right? Because the rights are we have those two things, which is read your own rights and snapshot isolation, that makes it possible, I think, to essentially have SQL at the edge.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. 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 Yeah. Parasocial Fix in the chat saying I remember playing with Risk back in the day. Risk is the one that uses CRDTs. I dropped a link to CRDT.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you mean conflict free replicated data, right? Yeah.
yeah, data
Yeah.
type. Yeah, Just
Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah. So, okay, so that's great. So, I guess the first question is like, uh, uh, Turso itself is a fork of an open source. It's an open source fork of SQLite itself, right? Is that right?
yeah. So we try to keep those things very very separate because as I
Okay.
said, like um, I come from this environment. Like open source today is very different. This is just I think me showing my age, but also maybe trying to recover something valuable from that experience and from that past. One of the things that I think that made Linux so special is that Linux was this open source project that was not captured by those various companies.
Yeah.
So lots of open source today is, and again, not there's anything wrong with that, but like there is the company, there's the open source, and there's the project, and everything is just a single thing. And again, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense because being a startup company, you don't have a lot of resources. So like there's a branding exercise to be done, and you want to make sure that your brand is recognized. But coming from the background that I come from, we wanted to
Yeah.
keep our open source thing like as a separate entity that we can draw
Okay.
from, but so can other people, right? So this is based on an open source project that we call LibSQL.
Mm-hmm.
LibSQL is a fork, is itself a fork of SQLite. And
Okay.
the reason that we fork SQLite is that, unbeknownst to many, SQLite is a open, technically or spiritually open source project in the sense that it's free. You can
Okay.
download it. You can see the source code. Um,
Yeah.
you can actually modify it, but they don't accept. Legally speaking, you can modify it, but they
Okay.
don't accept contributions back. At least not as a. They claim that they accepted one contribution one time, and therefore we're not telling the truth. So, but like
Okay.
you because of that, like it's effectively not open contribution. It's a group of 2 or 3 people that
Okay.
essentially steward SQLite, and we just didn't, you know, with nothing wrong with doing that, but that's
Yeah.
what people usually say in the open source community. If you don't like it, why don't you fork it? So we just came and fork it. So we
Yeah.
have the LibSQL project that LibSQL tries to be like just a fork of SQLite, and with
Mm-hmm.
fork of SQLite, that means it's very broad. It's mostly used as like an embedded database, like
Okay.
SQLite, and but we also add the bits to do native replication to LibSQL, right? So
Okay.
there are a part that is just like a virtualization of the write-ahead log and the tools to do replication. And then there is
Yeah.
another repository in the libsql organization, still part of the libsql project, that is like a more of a libsql with an HTTP server, etc. That is very close
Okay.
to what Turso is. That's called SQL Dir, or I call it libsql server. So
Okay.
Turso is a commercial product built on libsql.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. And I was gonna ask you if you do upstream contributions back to SQLite, but
I
you kind of answered my question with your
if we
yeah.
could, we wouldn't have to fork it. I mean, and we would love to do it,
Yeah.
but just
Yeah. No, for sure. Because like everybody would benefit then.
yeah,
And okay, so and in terms of SQLite itself, like it's a fork. So do you pull downstream whatever they make
yeah,
changes to, or yeah?
for yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So to the extent possible, right, and it's still possible. Like, and I think that
Yeah.
there is no reason not to do it. Like, at some point it may not be possible, just on or not viable. Like we
Yeah.
had, I dealt with forks before,
Mm-hmm.
because like what a lot of people don't understand is that in the year 2000, essentially every Linux distribution was a fork.
Yeah.
That's what it was, right? And so like maintaining a fork, especially that merges constantly from your upstream, can become a very daunting task.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there
I
is,
could.
I think the Linux community got really good at saying, hey, let's embrace the fact that people are doing this and make things very modular, very easy, and then like maintaining those distributions became very easy. And
Yeah.
we always had this policy of like, hey, try to always merge your things upstream first. Like what we always did at Red Hat, for example, is that if you wanted something running on Red Hat Linux, you had
Mm-hmm.
to first find a way to be accepted into upstream Linux, and
Okay.
then you could add that patch to your fork, right?
Okay.
Because what you're guaranteeing with this is that because your fork is essentially running an older version of that you're stabilizing, right? But what you're
Yeah.
guaranteeing with this is that the community will not solve the same problem in a different way in the
Okay.
future,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
to the extent that it becomes impossible to merge it. So like
Hmm.
it might come a day that we deviate so much that this is not going to be like a viable to do. It starts.
Yeah.
We some versions of Red Hat Linux, for example, we had a person at Red Hat just maintaining a fork of a specific part of the kernel,
Wow.
and his full time job was maintaining the fork, right? Because
Okay.
and then it was like that's not workable. But for
Yeah.
now, for us it's still very workable. We merge SQLite all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess if it comes to that point where you can't, for whatever reason, I mean, the product is still pretty solid, anyways.
Yeah.
The I guess like my first encounters with SQLite have actually been through like on my phone with like databases on there and stuff. And I actually discovered I got an e-reader from Kobo last fall, and I couldn't figure out why like I put in like a book I had that wasn't from their store, which you're allowed to do, but like flipping the pages was so slow and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And then I read a bit, and there's the uh, EPUB format, but then there's like a Kobo format, and it actually uses SQLite. So when you do that, it creates all these indices, I guess, in terms of like just being able to traverse the book quicker, which I found was
Hmm.
kind of neat. And I've seen it in applications like that. And I also remember hearing, his name's escaping me, but one of the creators of the Prettier project had this accounting project, and he was using SQLite. And
Yeah.
so like it's called SQLite, so to me right away that's like, okay, so
Yeah.
obviously a lighter version, but what does lighter mean? Because like in terms of SQL, like the main one I used was Microsoft SQL Server when I used to work in
Hmm.
.NET, which is like a huge behemoth.
Yeah.
So like I guess yeah, like what does SQLite actually mean, and like how does it make it viable to be like a product that you can use on the edge?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we're not the only company, by the way, to try to do something with SQLite at the edge. I
Okay.
think, obviously, I'm biased. I think we're the
Yeah,
ones that are
yeah.
doing it the best, but we're not the first. But that already tells you something, right? That all the companies that are attacking the edge are looking into SQLite one way or another.
Hmm.
And the reason for that, just taking a step back, is that, as it turns out, I think replicating storage is not that expensive.
Okay.
And you would see that intuitively because CDNs and Edge, they exist already, storing assets that in terms of storage are usually much bigger than a database, right? So
Hmm.
you can spread your files all over the world in a CDN, and that's pretty cheap, like right. So just the
Yeah.
storage part is not, it's not that complicated. It costs us, like, if a user would come and subscribe to the most expensive Turso plan, which, by the way, Turso is completely free at the moment, uh,
Okay.
just because we haven't been able to put the scalar plan out. It's coming around the month. We have a free tier
Okay.
only, right?
Okay.
But we already have like some information about pricing and whatnot. So if you would just say, hey, I want all of the regions, I want all of the everything, I want really whatever you can offer me, like give me the works, right? In terms of storage, this would cost us like $10, $15 a month,
Okay. Okay.
which
Negligible.
is I mean, not negligible for a
Well,
hobbyist, but like if you come for the works, man, this is nothing,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the expensive part is compute. So when you say, like, I want to have data at the edge and I want to have like this compute happening from everywhere and etc., like I need cheap compute. And cheap compute, what does that mean? Like, because obviously you have compute at the edge, Cloudflare and etc.
Yeah.
But all of those things are function based. They have no state. So it's
Yeah.
essentially like, if I'm not using, I'm not paying. And then a user comes, I bring it up, and then I shut it
Hmm.
down, and then I let it go, right? Now,
Yeah.
databases are not like that. Databases have state. Databases have to manage indexes. They have to manage a bunch of things. So they're long-lived things by nature. So
Yeah.
to make a database at the edge accessible, and again, most of those other databases that are cloud-based, they have the ability to create read replicas. But to make this workable, each location has to be extremely cheap. on the compute side.
Yeah.
And this is what SQLite enables, because SQLite, as you just mentioned, like it runs on an ebook reader.
Hmm.
So it runs on the cheapest thing we can find at the edge as well.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's
Okay, no, that's super interesting. And like, so in terms of functionality, like what does it offer? You were talking about
yeah,
transactions, obviously. So like, I mean, it's a full-fledged SQL database,
yeah.
but is there, like, I don't know, if we were to compare it to, I don't want to say enterprise because this will probably be an enterprise database, but what I mean is like,
Hmm.
I guess traditional enterprise
Yeah.
SQL databases, like, aside from the size, like what are some notable differences? And there's always
Yeah.
trade-offs, I know, but
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, like while it will be possible on the SQLite side alone to be handling a couple of terabytes, our architecture will take it to around 100 gigabytes, right?
okay.
So it's designed like our vision for the edge is that you don't necessarily need to you don't need to say, hey, all of my data now is going to the edge.
Hmm.
What you usually do is they say, hey, I mean, there's a part of my application
Yeah.
that benefits from the edge. And the data that relates to that, that's the data that I'm going to move to the edge, right? So that's the thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And couple of trade-offs that I think that exist with us from SQLite, which is like SQLite has very limited support for data types,
Okay.
and you essentially have a blob, the text, an integer, and
Okay.
that's it, right? Lots of things are very simple. So you could think of it as like if somebody would come and offer you the most basic implementation of SQL possible, what would that look
Okay.
like? And that would be SQLite, right? So all of this fancy stuff that you can get from databases will be absent from SQLite.
Okay.
But again, the idea here is like how if your business problem is like I want this part of my application to have extremely low latency,
Yeah.
right? Then the way to solve this business problem is by giving away this functionality that would come at a cost of like memory footprint and compute footprint and etc. And just go for
Yeah.
like the simplest thing possible. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think too, like reads are always more important than the writes. I mean, in terms of like like speed, like I think people are always okay. You log in or you update your profile. Maybe it takes a little longer, but like
Yeah,
it's like if you go to Google search and it's slow and people are not gonna like it.
yeah,
I mean, Google's a
yeah.
whole
For
different
again,
thing, but
for the web, that's definitely true. Which is like once more
yeah,
in my previous job at Scylla, we had a lot of use cases that had to do writes in 2 milliseconds. Right? So
yeah,
those use cases exist. But for the web, I think they're very rare, if they exist at all.
yeah. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Okay. So we've got Turso, which is a SQLite open source fork, and then so what comes with Turso? Like I might like if we want to get up and started with Turso, we were talking briefly before the stream, but
Yeah.
there's a CLI, and what are the tools we have, and I can switch us to pairing view if you want.
Yeah. So look, the beautiful thing about Turso for me is that to get started, you really don't need much. Everything, all of our drivers, they're designed to work both at the edge and locally. So
Okay.
when you create your JavaScript application, TypeScript, or we support TypeScript, JavaScript, Golang, Rust, and Python. So you
Okay.
start your application, and then you have a client that's called libsql client TS, like the TypeScript client
Okay.
for libsql, that comes
Yeah.
with the embedded SQLite. So all of the development that you're going to do can be local, right?
Okay.
There's nothing remote that can be done. If you want to,
I'm
SQLite
just
is probably
installing
already
so.
installed. Yeah, it's probably already installed.
Oh,
I would be
okay. I
I would
tried
be
SQLite 3.
surprised. SQLite 3, yeah, that's the SQLite 3.
Oh,
It's
whoops,
the
2.
name of the command line.
Yeah, it's oh, okay. I do have it. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
So like this is in memory, right? Because you just did SQLite 3. But if you do SQLite 3 and the name of a file, you now create a file,
Okay.
right?
Okay, even if it doesn't
Yeah.
exist yet, it'll
Yeah.
persist it after, you mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Uh,
you do like test.db. And then you
okay,
can do like a normal SQL statement like create table, Nick,
okay,
and
Okay, users or something, and then it's been a while since I've written a lot of
I don't
SQL.
think it has autocomplete or anything like that. So you're gonna
Yeah,
this
yeah,
shell, the SQLite shell is very basic. It's the most. So you're gonna do create table users, and then like you pass a column.
yeah. So we
No,
could
just
do
a parenthesis, and then like the name of a column. Let's say A, and its type.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
text, like a
Yeah. Is
username
it
text.
colon or
No,
ends?
just space, and then
Okay, yeah.
comma. Yeah, or if this is if you want to create another one, you can do like
Yeah, we'll go. I don't know. We'll do something silly. Age. And is it
age.
just number or int?
I think there's integer,
Okay, cool.
and then you do a semicolon after that. Uh,
Okay,
this is SQL. You always need a semicolon just to.
okay.
So
It's been a while.
now you create yeah. Now you have your table. It's again
Yeah,
very simple table. A table that you could have just enter and
yeah. Oh, I
uh,
wrote
yeah.
tablet.
It's
No,
just
that's
because
me.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
because
that's
again
just
this
me. That's
shell
fine.
is horrible. But
Oh no, it's fine.
I yeah
Jesus, that's okay. That's just live coding.
yeah.
Just not knowing what I'm typing. Okay. Create table. Jesus Christ.
I would just do it all over again. I think create table
Yeah.
users, and then you do the yeah and the semicolon.
There we
There you go.
go. There we
So
go.
now you have this table users.
Yeah.
If you quit the shell and you
Okay.
enter again, you will see that the table is still there, right? Just
Yeah.
yeah, you do
Okay.
dot
So.
schema, no semicolon, dot schema.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, just dot schema because that's an internal SQLite command. So just dot schema.
Okay.
You will see that this table exists, right?
Okay. Nice. Nice.
Right.
Okay.
So
Cool.
now you can insert some data, you can do whatever you want. This file is there, right? So you can do,
Okay.
for example, insert into, and then the syntax is that within parentheses, you
Yeah.
list the columns that you want to insert, like username, comma,
Yeah.
age, and then say values,
Yeah.
and then open comma, and then do the same thing, like a username, and
Do I have to use double quotes? I can't remember for a sequel.
yeah,
It's been a
it
while.
should be okay to do single quotes, yeah.
Okay. And then let's do Nikki T online. Age, I will lie and I'll say 22 or 23.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
There you go.
Insert.
So
What
oh,
did
okay, you forgot, of course, the name of the table. So before intro, like
Oh
you
yeah,
need to
yeah.
know which table. Yeah, my bad,
Yeah.
because
No, we're
I
good.
was guiding you on that one. So
No,
that's on
no,
me.
it's good. I'm
Yeah,
rusty, very rusty.
yeah,
Okay,
that's
cool.
all right.
Select.
Yeah,
So now I can select star
it's like
from
star from
users.
users.
All right,
There you
cool.
go.
There we go.
So
Awesome.
again, this is all what this shell is. Again, SQLite is a database that you can embed in your application. So what this shell is essentially a shell application with the SQLite database embedded into that, right? And
Yeah.
you can think of Turso essentially as a web server with
Okay.
the SQLite database embedded into each node and a protocol under it, making sure that all the data gets replicated, right? So if you want to write a JavaScript application now, for example, to query that file, you can.
Yeah. So let me just create a. So let me make a new app here. Turso stream. npm init. Yes. Whoops.
I think you need to go into the directory. You were not in.
Oh yeah. This is always the the live stream stuff.
Yeah.
Turso stream. Okay, cool. npm and not init, not install. All right, and let's do a git init. Okay. All right, cool. And then let's just open up the project. Oops, I meant to open it in the same one, but that's fine. Let's close that. Okay, cool. So we've got our project here, and I guess I'll create a new file.
Yeah.
Index.js. And I'm just going to close the terminal for a second here. Okay. And I'll just grab that snippet of code you sent me before. Give me 1 second. And so what we're going to grab here, this is essentially, you talked about it briefly before the stream, but since we created this file, I'll get this to format in a second here. Just let me add something else here. Touch.prettier RC. Oh, whoops. I'm having fat fingers today. All right, cool. Let me just add this. This is just so it'll auto format as I start typing. Okay, so import from libsql client. Okay, we got some other stuff here. I'm just gonna zoom out a bit. Okay, okay, just let me break this up for a sec. RS. Okay, there we go. And
Yeah.
okay, so the first thing we need is we obviously need to install at libs. Is it just at libsql or at libsql client?
Libsql, yeah. I do. You're the JavaScript guy. You tell me.
Cool, cool.
I do libsql/client, but maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know.
No, it's because
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes it's like a package within the package or
Yeah.
like a module within it. But yeah, no, it's this. Okay, so this is installing the libsql client, which is what we will use to connect to libsql, which will eventually be a Turso database on the edge once this is like out in the wild. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right.
Now the other,
So,
I don't know if you need to do something with package.json to make it,
oh yeah,
essentially to make it await friendly. How do you call this?
yeah, we can do
A
just
module.
type
Module, right?
module. Okay. Yeah, it's for compatibility reasons.
The
'Cause
next
there's
the
like
next
an
stream
or.
is going to be you explaining to me this whole mess with modules in JavaScript. Just how much time do we need to book for that?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that package is installed now. So we have the
Yeah.
client now. Like you said, we were talking before the stream, and why don't I move?
You should copy that file inside this directory, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
Just to
gonna
make it
do.
simpler.
Yeah, I'm just. Did I have it here? Okay, yeah, it is there. Okay, cool. Whoops. All right, cool. That should be in there. Yeah, okay. Test DB is in there now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave it in the root for now. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so like you were saying, the URL can obviously be a URL like an HTTPS URL. But you were saying like for local development or maybe other use cases, you can actually use a file protocol
That's
instead.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
we can essentially just do now everything we want to do in that file that you created. Like but I would just leave it there and use a environment variable.
Yeah,
Up to you,
.env.
but
Yeah.
like
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Are you executing this with Node?
Yeah, I'll probably have to run
Yeah.
whatchamacallit .env. Oh no, I can pass
Yeah,
it
the
as
way I usually do it on my dinosaur ways is just to say URL equals file and then Node,
yeah.
invoke Node. Just but I think you
Yeah,
can do like yeah.
I can just do this. What's the
Yeah.
format for
Yeah. So
the?
now we're gonna do like I always use quotes for that. So like it will be file colon test.db, right? Because it's in the local directory.
And then
There you go, and then Node
index.js.
index.js.
Okay,
I think
cool.
URL comes first. That's the first thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's always fun live coding. All right, cool. Node. All right, so let's run that. And this is gonna select one.
Yeah, select one is the simplest SQL statement that you can make. Lots of people actually don't know that you can use SQL as a calculator, even. Right,
Okay.
which module is not found? Index.
Oh, I didn't save the file yet. I don't think. Is that it?
Okay.
No index. No, that's good. Oh no, I know why. I'm not in the Turso stream folder because I was down there before. There we go. Okay, cool.
There you go.
All right, so let me.
So select one is the simplest SQL statement that you can do. Lots of people don't know, but you can actually use SQL as a calculator. You can do, for example, select 1 plus 2, then you're going to return 3 or etc. Like, and I just always use that to do like is this working, right? Just kind of thing. But you can now go and select star from users in that file, right? Just
yeah. Okay. Yeah. And usually I know you're not supposed to use star, but for performance
just
reasons,
an example,
right?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Do you see? This is querying a local file, and
Yeah.
If you want
The
to
the
show,
thing I
if you
like,
want to show the audience, Nick, how big this file is, right? Just do an ls dash l.
yeah. Uh,
Or,
okay. So ls dash l. All right. So we're looking at the test DB. It's
yeah,
8192 bytes. So
yeah,
pretty,
yeah.
not too big.
It's essentially like all file, and it, it's 8 kilobytes because that's pretty much the minimum. Like with 8 kilobytes, you can put like a lot of data.
Yeah.
And one of the things you can do is have like lots of those database files specifically for your CI pipeline that
Okay.
have the
Yeah.
data. So testing databases is usually a pain, but with Turso, you can do all of those tests locally. Have your unit tests, have whatever. Like I don't know. The other day there was people on Twitter discussing if you should unit test or not. Because just for me, this is
Yeah.
like, of course you should. But like you can do can do whatever you want using those local files, which again that doesn't need any setup in your CI, right? Or you can do your local development of your application all like
Yeah.
this using local files, right?
Yeah, no, this is cool, and I'll just mention too, like this was very fast to get up and running as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bumbled around a bit in the SQLite CLI for a second there, but like I mean, obviously we don't have an app here yet, but like it just shows how quickly you can get up and running. So I thought that was kind of neat. So
Yeah.
okay, so we have
And
this
one
now.
one thing worth mentioning is that lots of people, most people, I guess, don't usually interact with SQL at this level. So you're usually going
Yeah.
to have an ORM on top, right? Uh, the ORM situation is as follows. I know Prisma is the dominant ORM in the
Hmm.
TypeScript world. Prisma doesn't work with Turso yet. They would have to patch it to work with Turso because again, it works with
Okay.
SQLite, but this is not SQLite. This is libSQL,
Yeah.
which is the thing that this you could do with Prisma, which is just the local part. But what you can't do is then the switch to HTTP. The ORM,
Okay.
we work our given their architecture, it was very easy for us to adapt Kaiseli, or however you say that, Next, and Drizzle. So all of those three solutions work with libSQL very well. Drizzle works
Yeah.
out of the box. We're actually a sponsor of their project. I love what they're doing a lot. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they are an ORM that's much better so far than Prisma for the edge for other reasons as well.
Yeah.
And so you could do this like using Drizzle at the ORM layer, no problem, right? You don't have to go raw SQL. It's just like that's how I
Yeah.
usually explain things. But then,
Yeah, no, and Drizzle's fairly new, but it's gotten super popular like very
yeah,
quickly. I dropped a link to it for folks that are interested, and obviously there's Prisma too, like you said, but
yeah.
with the limitation for Turso at the moment. Okay, so like yeah, we're interacting with just raw stuff here right now. So like obviously this is just like a console application, and we're just showing some trivial queries. I don't know what else you want to explore here, or do you want to explore like putting it on the
Yeah.
edge maybe, like, or
Let's
deploying
put
it,
it.
or
Let's do it. Let's put it on the edge.
okay. So I guess where would I start? I have the Turso CLI installed. If
Yeah.
that helps,
Uh,
let me
you
make
you
sure I
use
do.
it before. You use it before, right?
No, I haven't used it before.
You haven't used it at all.
No.
So that's awesome because we have a couple of flows that we only show you the first time.
Okay.
So it's essentially like guiding flows to say, hey, if you're new, do this, try that, and etc. And awesome to show it. So I think the first thing is that you need to be authenticated. So
Okay.
if you try to do Turso DB locations,
Okay.
it will fail if you're not. Yeah, then you do login. I just
Okay. Yeah, gotcha. And I imagine I can just go ahead and create an account.
yeah,
Yes,
GitHub and
allow. Okay, give me a sec. I'll switch us just to other mode for a sec, just so I can just get all set up here. All right. So yeah. So, or actually, I can show. Yeah, I'm continuing with GitHub. I can actually show this flow. Actually, I thought it was gonna ask me to put in my password and stuff, but basically, it just showed a screen that said log in with GitHub, and then boom, I'm in. Okay. So I guess that's it
that's it. Yeah, no, you go
for
back to
yeah.
the browser,
Okay.
go back to the CLI.
Cool. All
You
right. So that was
you can
super.
try Turso update just because you installed the CLI a while ago, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think I
So let's
installed
just
it
make
like
sure.
2 weeks
Yeah,
ago, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. Okay, and it's using Brew under the hood. Okay, cool.
there
Awesome.
you go.
I
There you
guess
go.
side note, but like obviously I'm on a Mac, so it ran Brew. I imagine you detect the environment to choose a better
Yeah,
installation option.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's a nice touch. Okay, so if I go back to Turso DB locations, okay, so now I get
yeah.
stuff here.
This will show you. This will show you all the locations where you have, and it's going to show you a default. So default is essentially the location that's closer to you,
Okay,
right?
yeah, that makes sense.
Uh,
Yeah, New Jersey.
and if you do Turso DB locations dash L, it's going to sort that list by the latency that you get to each of those locations, right?
Oh, nice. That's a nice
Yeah,
feature. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So okay, it's actually faster from somewhere further
and
away from me.
and this is the Hong Kong thing is very surprising. This is probably like a, but this is data again that we get from the public internet, so that there's a lot of variance in that.
Okay.
Which is why, by the way, you shouldn't necessarily uh, select the thing that is closer to you in latency. It's closer to you geographically. So the default that we give you, like, is essentially
Hmm.
based on what is the geographically closer place to you. Because like this
Okay.
measurement, of course, there is routing, there is like whatever, like the ISP play games. We use it
Yeah.
mostly as like an internal debugging tool.
Okay.
This just sounds completely broken though in your case for whatever reason, because
Yeah.
South Africa
Oh.
being, yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's I'm connected with Cloudflare. Oh no, I'm not even
Could
connected to
be.
Cloudflare Warp at the
I don't
time.
know.
Oh, weird.
I don't
I
know.
do
Yeah.
have I do have fiber here now because they upgraded
Hmm.
us, so maybe it's that. Who knows? But
Fiber
yeah,
fiber
but yeah.
doesn't take you. Fiber doesn't take you to Johannesburg in 60 milliseconds.
Yeah, exactly. So
Just
who knows? I've
it's
got a special connection with Hong
yeah,
Kong, I guess. Who knows?
yeah, I totally possible. But anyway,
Yeah.
like so if you do Turso DB create now, it's gonna create a database. Uh, you can, yeah,
Okay.
in the location closest to you. You can, if you don't want that location, you can always specify another one, right?
Okay. I'll just go with the defaults for now. Okay.
Yeah. So again,
Okay.
this only
So
happens because it's the first time, right? So
okay, yeah. Yes, let's do it. All right, great. We suggest. I also side note, but I like that there's an onboarding process here.
yeah,
I typically I can't think of CLIs that have done this a lot. Maybe there's a few, maybe, but
yeah.
okay. So they're suggesting France.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No, keep going down. You're gonna find eventually gonna find Frankfurt. Again, your terminal is obviously quite small, so you can't show the whole table.
here, let me go down. It's only giving me three
Yeah.
actually, or
No,
four.
but you if yeah, it's
Oh,
because
okay. I
if
see what you
yeah,
mean. I didn't realize I could tab. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So,
But this is a good argument in favor of just not showing the interactive table. I figure it would be a nice touch, but there is one person in the company that actually thinks it sucks because of this. Because if you're in a small terminal, so like actually,
oh,
his
that
his
wasn't a
record,
big deal. I just
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
aware that I could actually
yeah,
tab in it. Okay, cool. So I'll
yeah.
choose Germany
But
just for fun.
again, this suggestion is essentially, hey, you have a database in the US. If you add a replica in Europe, it gives you more. So you have essentially a table, but you create
Hmm.
it wherever you want. It's just
Okay. All right. So this is creating literally an empty database. It's in New Jersey right now, and it's replicated it to Frankfurt now.
Frankfurt. That's right. Yeah,
Okay. Cool. All right. And then it says you can start an interactive shell. So is this going to give me the same thing, kind of like the SQLite
yeah.
shell?
If
Okay.
it's a more modern read on the SQLite shell, but still keeping like the minimalist aspects of that, right? You're gonna see that, but you can
Okay.
do the create table command now and create the user table with the same schema, right? The
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And
users.
then create table users. What was it?
You had a
Again, this is
username.
like,
You had a username as a text. So
yeah.
parentheses
I have to.
username text. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Thank you. Username. We'll go age and then.
Age was an integer. Username was
Oh yeah.
text. Just
Oh yeah. Thank you. I'm sure you're in this all day, so this is like muscle
yeah,
memory all the time.
yeah.
Okay,
That's right.
cool. And there and create. That should be it, right?
That should be it.
Okay.
And
All
you,
right.
you should insert something that is different than what you have in the local database. Otherwise, people are going to think we're cheating. But
Yeah. Insert into users, and then we'll
yeah,
say username, age,
age,
and then
values.
values. Okay, let's say Glauber and
I
I
am
will lie about you.
17.
You're
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I'm
17. You
17.
you definitely look
That,
17.
and
You're
it's an integer. Just don't put the quotes.
oh yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There you
And
go.
so now if I do select star from users, I should get one row. Perfect. Okay. So
Yeah.
we've got this data replicated now. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
So the main difference now is that when you're gonna run when you're gonna run your node application, you're gonna need a token. Now
Yeah.
to query the database, you do not through the CLI, you do not need the token. But that doesn't mean, by the way, when you install Turso, when you sign up for Turso, you're going to be given a form a
Yeah.
couple of days later, pretty normal standard. So we want to hear your feedback. And one
Okay.
feedback that we received is that our database was insecure, and it was ridiculous that in 2023 a database is just default to be exposed to the internet like that, right?
Okay.
So I just want to clarify that this database that you shelled into, it's not exposed to the internet. It's just that
Okay.
because you logged in with the shell, we manage
Yeah.
the token for you, right?
Yeah, no,
But
that makes sense.
when you're gonna run the node application, you need the token.
Okay, yeah, cool, cool, gotcha. And for the URL, I imagine it's this one with the
Yeah,
libsql. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right,
And
so
this URL, by the way, it's going back to what we were discussing before. That's one of the things that makes this an edge database. It's the same
okay,
URL regardless of where your replicas are. And if a user now queries this from Frankfurt or for close to Frankfurt, they would be routed there automatically, right?
okay, gotcha. All right, cool. I'm just installing .env
Yeah,
because I'll need it for
yeah,
running it because it won't be as
yeah,
elegant
yeah,
to actually do
absolutely, yeah.
.env local. But yeah, this is but so far I gotta say it's like the process is pretty smooth. It's just the hiccups are mainly me just like fumbling around typing. Um, okay, cool. .env local. All right, so URL and token I will go get in a second. Thank you, GitHub Copilot. I don't think that's my token, but
Don't think that's the token.
so, sorry for whoever's token that is, but it's just been exposed. Okay,
So
so let me say that.
this is how we know that people do commit tokens to GitHub, eh?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's unfortunate, but yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me close this, and I always forget the syntax for .env. Is it just why is it not doing that? Yeah, okay, and then .env. Yeah, there it is. Okay, that should be good. And then I'll get my URL and token. Okay, so now if I want to get my token, I've got to go to the Turso site, obviously.
No, no, you do everything from the CLI. Like we're very CLI oriented. So you do Turso
Okay,
DB tokens create and the name of the database.
okay, tokens create,
Yeah,
and
create and the
I
name of
don't,
the database.
I can't remember what we named it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it will give you if you didn't pass anything, it gives you like the name adapting choice. I think it's a whatever random
okay,
name. But
okay,
if you go up, it will be there when you.
yeah. Well, I'll.
Yeah, you
Where,
see that it said adapting choice. I think if you go down, it was it's in blue. Created
oh yeah,
database
yeah.
adapting choice.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool, cool. And I'll just get out of pairing view for a sec because I imagine it's going to expose the
Hmm.
token on the in the CLI.
Yeah, but you can always invalidate it later. I mean, just
Yeah, true.
the risk here is somebody being fast enough to copy and writing to the
Yeah,
database.
yeah.
And
I guess if anything, that means people will actually
yeah,
like my stream
yeah.
then. Okay, cool.
We
So let's
see.
copy this. All right, cool. And if somebody,
You can create. By the way, you can. This is a normal job token. You can create a
okay.
read-only token, and then you can put, for example, this in the browser if you want. There are
Oh,
a
okay,
variety
okay.
of things that you can do. Like this token is read-write, so everybody with this token will be able to write to the database. But you can create a read-only token as well.
Okay, okay. So obviously more secure than that way. Yeah, the good old,
Yeah,
least privilege principle. Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right. So let's put this in here. Okay. And that should be good. Okay, now let's clear here. And what was it? Node. And I'm not going to bother passing in any environment variables here because we don't need to.
Yeah.
So it should be good. I've got my token and my URL. Let's see what happens. Okay. The URL is
Yeah.
not a valid format.
I think we just need quotes on those strings, no? Just
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
yeah, and the token as well.
Yeah. It's weird. When I was working in Ruby at another job, you didn't need the
Yeah.
quotes sometimes for some reason. But okay, let's try this again.
What's
Okay,
that?
what's it not like? The URL is not a valid format.
Yeah.
Why don't we just console log it out?
Oh yeah, because
Is that correct or?
yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's just not picking it up.
Yeah.
You know what? Since we're exposing them anyways, well, whatever. Let me just make sure that it's there. But console. This is just basically because natively in JavaScript it doesn't
Yeah.
pick up the environment. So let's see what it. Oh, I'm gonna be showing too many things in here. Okay, let me just do URL. I'm guessing it's empty.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
undefined. I don't know.
undefined.
Now it's for you, man. I have no idea how
Yeah.
that works. But
Let me
like,
just do this.
are you sure it doesn't have to be just .env, right? Just
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, there we go.
there you go.
Cool.
Yes.
All right. So again, to be clear, everything is going super smoothly. It's just me bumbling around getting .env working. So, but again, though, this is like super cool. We went into the Turso CLI, we provisioned a database, replicated it, added a couple pieces of data, and then just reran the project. And I'm hitting. I guess I don't need to think about it. It decides where I'm hitting, right? Like obviously, like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So and as you notice, like the responses are pretty standard JSON stuff. And
yeah,
just to reiterate, I think most of the time you're going to be using an ORM like Drizzle, so you don't get to that layer, you don't get to that level. I like doing
yeah,
it first of all because I said that this is more familiar to me. So
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of me trying to get, and also because I mean I think it shows more like, hey, this is the database we're running SQL and whatnot, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's super valuable, and like I said, I'm a little rusty, so like,
Yeah,
but I do agree. It's always good to kind of know under the hood, like, kind of what's going on, you know, because like definitely the ORM definitely shelters you from a lot of this.
yeah,
But yeah, but this is super cool. Okay, so like, and then from here, like you said, if I wanted to, I could hook it up to Drizzle if I wanted to build an
yeah.
app out and stuff. But okay, cool. We don't have to
Another
necessarily do
thing,
that now.
just to mention, like you don't have to specify all of your replicas when you start. So
Okay.
if you want to go right now and create another replica, you can. Right?
Okay, I got you.
You just do Turso DB replicate the name of the database and another location, right? Just
Okay. And then what was it?
and
Adapting choice, I think.
yeah. If you want to do Turso DB list, it will show you like
Okay.
yeah, there
Let's
you go
let's go
again. We need
Columbia.
to we need to move that table to like a different table again, a table that is not
Yeah.
interactive. Because,
Well,
but like
now
you
that I
can do
know
the
it's
same thing. Yeah,
interactive,
yeah,
yeah. I think it was. I think like the feedback I'd give as like somebody using it for the first time, it's just
yeah.
I wasn't aware that it was interactive. But
Hmm.
but maybe it could be maybe as simple as just saying arrow
Yeah,
down
there's
and
three dots.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So now if I go to and then Turso DB locations just gives me all of them. It doesn't give.
yeah. If you do Turso DB list, it will show you the databases that you have,
Okay.
right?
Okay,
And
nice.
if you do
So
Turso DB show and the name of the thing, it will show you like a more detailed info for this
like
database,
that.
right? No, for
Oh,
that's the
adapting
name of
choice.
the database, adapting choice,
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Cool. No, this
right?
is
So
nice.
it gives you like a more like the size and
Okay. No, that's cool. And again, it's super tiny. We've
mhm.
replicated it in a few places, I get. But okay, no, this is super neat. So like, basically, we really haven't spent that much time on this yet because we were talking for a good chunk before. But I'd say like, definitely in under under 15 or 10 minutes, we provision the database on the edge and we're already using it in, obviously it's a trivial application we're looking at right now, but I think that's super cool that you can get up and running super fast because if there's like a long process to just roll something out, it's not as fun. But no, that's cool. I guess from this aspect, because like we don't necessarily need to deploy an application because we've clearly seen already that like we're using a live database. Um, but yeah, I guess trying to think of what else we could look at here. I know you have a hard stop in about
Yeah, but
20 minutes.
we've got time.
Yeah. Okay. I guess from this aspect, like looking at if we look at the SQL client here, is the main things we have here. We have execute to obviously run something. We could also do the same thing and do an insert first, right? Like we
We
could
could,
do
yes, we could, yeah.
just to demo to some folks. And there's a question in the chat. Parasocial Fix has all the questions today. Saying, can I limit data to specific regions like they do in Europe?
The only way to do this now is by only putting those locations in Europe. And again, to be clear, your database is still accessible from anywhere, right?
Okay.
So if all of your locations that you specify are in Europe, the data, what those locations are saying is exactly this: like, where is this data replicated? Right.
Okay.
And you can create like multiple databases, and some of them are only replicated in European locations and some of them are more global. It's really up to you. By the way, this is one of
Okay.
the reasons we don't abstract locations, because when we started thinking about Turso conceptually, one of the things that we wanted to
Yeah.
do is just like, hey, let's just put this all over the world, right? And but that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to give people this control of like exactly because of compliance reasons, that no, this data
Okay.
cannot be over the world, because as much as I would love it, the politicians in Europe won't let me. And
Okay.
other regions have similar things as well, right? So you
Yeah.
are in control of the locations where this database is replicated. If you only replicate it in Europe, and then you access from the United States, it will be slow. But again, there
Okay.
is no way around this problem, because if the data is in Europe and you need to get to Europe to get it, like
Yeah.
it's just physics, right? So this
Yeah.
is I think that there's going to be part of your data that you can replicate all over the globe, and there's part of your
Okay.
data they're going to replicate all over Europe. But if you're serving European users, Nick, if you want to take a look at the list of locations as well,
Yeah.
there are a lot of locations in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just remove them
Locations.
minus L just to.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just zoom that up here. Okay. So yeah, we already see Spain, London, Romania, Poland.
Warsaw.
Yeah. So
There's
yeah.
Stockholm as well, and just
Yeah. I also like that you're using the airport codes on the left there.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Um, awesome. Okay, and I did a test here. I just did an insert here, and so like if I come back here and run it, I'll see that it's added the row. So like, again, nothing like from a SQL standpoint, nothing like mind blowing I'm doing here, but the execute is the main thing with the client. I imagine.
Well, there are three methods. There are three methods. One of them is execute. The other one is batch.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Batch will allow you to send multiple requests at the same time. So you can do, like, for example, 5, 6 different queries, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
And then the other one is transaction, which is an interactive transaction. Essentially,
Okay.
right? Just you open by the way, the behavior of everything is transactional. So if in a batch command you send many inserts, that's
Mhm.
still transactional. But
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
when
It's
you
all
yeah
or nothing. Okay.
yeah but when you open a transaction, what that means is that it opens a connection, and then you're going to read something, you're going to do some computation on it, and then you're going to write something back, yada yada yada. That's usually called an
Okay.
interactive transaction, right?
Okay. With the classic stuff like
Yeah.
rollback if it didn't work out and
No,
okay.
we always have that. The difference
Okay.
between transaction and batch is that the batch is just like here by SQL requests. There's no logic
Okay.
between them, just all of them.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the interactive transaction allows you to read something, do some logic, do some computation, and then we want to push some of that computation to us as well. One
Okay.
of the things that the libsql fork of SQLite allows you to do, again, this happens on the open source, is
Hmm.
to register user-defined functions in WebAssembly. We don't expose that
Okay.
to Turso yet, but we want, for example, to expose that to Turso. But then now you can send it, I guess, your whole program as a batch because you can have logic between them, right?
Okay.
But
Cool. Cool.
those are the three things that sorry, that you can do.
Okay. No, that's super cool. And
No, I'm
again,
talking too much.
it's okay. Yeah, yeah. I forget to drink water sometimes on the stream. That's why I try to do it religiously during the stream. But uh, again, speaking of transactions and stuff, obviously SQLite supports indices because I know it does
Yes.
because of my Kobo problem I had. Um, uh, does it support stuff like stored procedures, or is that not something
No, not
that's
not at
how
the
old I
moment. Yeah.
am? Okay.
Yeah. So for example, the WebAssembly user-defined functions is a way to do like store procedures, but we don't expose that with
Okay.
Tursi yet. And I see
Yeah.
there's a
Okay.
bunch of questions, but as I said, I can't read them. So
Yeah, I don't know why that's going potato today, but it's been mainly Parasocial Fixes had all the questions. I've
yeah.
also been just dropping links and stuff too. Yeah, no, the last ones were just about the data in
I,
Europe, and
I,
then and then yeah, there's another question: is that like stored functions in Postgres? Uh,
yeah, it will be like store functions. Yeah. So again,
okay, okay,
we do this at the libsql open source level, but we don't expose this at Turso yet. Just
okay. And in terms of like the performance, because like when you have a stored procedure, like the path is known for the execution query plan, I believe, whereas like if you're just running raw SQL, it doesn't know. Does the function, I'm no DBA, but like when you do it through a function like that, is there still really good performance in terms of uh,
Yeah, again, I think part of the reason why we don't expose that yet is that it opens up a lot of those questions, and
okay.
because the real answer here is that because the function is defined by you, it depends on the function, right?
Yeah, 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 true.
Yeah,
The functions could be performant, but I could
yeah,
still write a crappy
yeah,
function. Okay, yeah,
exactly,
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
And then this
Okay,
has a lot of consequences for the product and how you interact with users and support and billing. So, like at the moment, we're not
yeah.
doing that yet, but again, this exists in the open source.
Okay, yeah. And I just want to reiterate a point you said before. So right now, it's Turso is completely free for people to be trying it out and stuff.
Yeah.
But you do like obviously this will become a paid product because you,
Hmm.
as much as I
Yeah.
love open source, I understand you probably want to get some money at some point. Um,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know if you can speak to that yet or not. Or like, will it be like
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah? Because like I'm
So
thinking
if you
like
try
for
to
my
create another replica now or another
yeah.
database, it will fail. And the reason it will fail is that in the free plan you're limited to three. So we already
Okay.
did our three, right? So if you do like pick any other location like a YYZ or
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, let's go Mumbai. Why not? Okay.
yeah, right. So this is one
Maximum
this is one
threat.
of the things like the free tier is like our like Turso is a relatively new technology. Again, I think we as most startups are we moving decently fast and as fast as we can. But the
Hmm.
goal of the free tier is essentially look. If you look at the specs, if you want to go
Yeah.
to the website, Nick, and we're gonna take a
Yeah.
look at what's in there.
Okay.
There's a pricing tab at the top.
Yeah.
Then everything's going to be there, right? So the starter plan is where you are now. So you just logged into Turso, you are at the starter plan,
Yeah.
and it gives you like a decent amount of things to do, right? Just that you can get those three a database in three regions.
Yeah.
You can have 8 gigabytes total storage. And just a reminder, this is a total. So, like if you have a database in three regions, every byte that you
Yeah.
write is
Yeah.
multiplied by three, right? So
Okay.
the size, yeah. And you can have a bigger database with only two regions, or you can have a smaller database with three regions. That was the choice that we wanted to give you. We've heard
Okay.
a lot of this feedback that just I like this flexibility, so
Okay.
it's okay. What
Yeah.
is coming in a month is the scalar plan, right? So the scalar plan, we're hinting at what is going to be available, but essentially going to have more storage, more requests per reads per second, more locations. You're going to be able to deploy your database in 6 locations,
Okay.
right? And The other one, this one, I don't know if it was actually a good idea or not for us to put there because it's confusing a lot of people. People say, oh, Turso is too expensive. It's essentially for like enterprise that have a use case that want to engage with us now.
Yeah.
It's not an enterprise plan; it's an enterprise partner plan. It's like, hey, I have a use
Okay.
case. I know you guys. I know you guys are not ready to charge, but I'm willing to, make it, get you an invoice, and we need to start this right now. Then
Yeah.
you see, it's not even sign up; it's like partner up. But those
Yeah.
are
Okay.
the, and we have people, by the way, in this situation, which is why we wanted to do it. But
Yeah.
in around the month,
Okay.
what you're going to have is the scaler plan. The scaler plan is going to be $29 a month, and it's
Okay.
going to give you, as I said, 6 locations, and this should be enough, I guess, for most people out of the enterprise to have like a. Just think about it: 6 locations, you cover the whole world if you place them well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we got yeah, that doesn't cover, well, we don't need to cover Antarctica, so we're
Yeah.
probably, probably unless there's some penguins using your website, I guess, but
It's still
okay.
pretty close to South America and South Africa, so like in
That's
Australia.
true.
So
That's true. So penguins, don't worry.
yeah,
You'll get
yeah,
your edge database fast.
yeah. The
Um
penguins
the,
penguins get routed to Argentina instead of the United States, which is already better.
yeah, yeah, exactly. There's another question. Like Turso is obviously an edge database, but they're asking, should I use Turso if my app is running in a VPS or an EC2 instance, or is it really only built for edge?
Uh, Again, it depends on what you mean by edge here, right? So first of all, like there are people who are coming to our Discord community, and
Hmm.
obviously everybody is invited here, that don't even really want this much like edge. They really were looking for a solution for like network SQLite, because SQLite has a lot of appeal for a lot of people. But one of the
Yeah,
problems is exactly this. I mean, it's a database that is cheap to run. It has a lot. It has a lot of advantages per se, and
yeah,
also, of course, lots of disadvantages. But there are many cases that favor the trade-offs the SQLite offer. And I say, hey, I
yeah,
don't even really need the edge. I really just need SQLite over the network. So there are some people with this use case that come to us, and obviously you're very welcome. About your question, like I always like to make this distinction. Lots of
hmm,
people, especially in the web, because of Cloudflare and Vercel, associate Edge with those things that Cloudflare and Vercel run. So already like functions and serverless and etc. But all we mean by the edge at the most conceptual level is like stuff that can be coming from multiple geographies, right? So you
okay,
can have edge, like you can have it on a VPS, right? And if you put if you have 6 VPSs in
hmm,
6 locations, this is edge. It's not the edge that Vercel is talking about. It's not the edge that Cloudflare is talking about, right? Which is a mix between serverless at the edge,
okay,
but it's edge enough for me, and right,
okay. Yeah, and I'll give a shout out. Netlify's edge functions went GA
yeah.
last week, so
Oh,
but yeah,
awesome, amazing,
yeah, yeah.
super
It's
cool.
been in beta for a while, but yeah, it went GA last week. So, but yeah, no, that's cool. Thanks for answering that. Yeah, we're getting kind of close to the end here, because like I know you do have to hop off shortly. But thanks for sharing that about the pricing too, because I think that's super helpful. Like you were saying, like if I just go back to it for a sec, like once the scalar account is available, like that's a plan that is viable for somebody running a business who isn't like a huge enterprise, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that sounds like whatever I mean, 29 sounds pretty reasonable. Maybe that's not the final, like you said, because it's crossed out at the moment.
No, the
Um,
price it's crossed out just because it's not available, but the price is pretty
oh,
final.
okay, okay.
What is not final is like what you get for 29, right? So that's why
Okay,
it's
okay, okay.
it's blurred out, but it's very close to what's in there. We're actually thinking about increasing some of those things a little bit, but it's
Okay.
for sure you're going to get 6 locations, which is like we're dealing this a lot. Again, I can't offer you just 4 locations because it's too close to the free plan. So like
Okay, I got you.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna be it's gonna be 6 locations, and then we're discussing a little bit the amount that you can do with that.
Okay. No, that's cool. And I love that there's a free tier because I I always get annoyed by products that don't offer free tier, and it's not because I'm trying to just be cheap. It's just
Yeah.
like
No.
if you want to experiment with it and like and from what I've seen in the past too, it's like if I start playing with the free tier and I'm like, this is pretty solid, and then like wherever I'm working, I might say like, hey, like let's check out Turso, or that's usually the flow I've seen kind of happen when people get a chance to like really dig into it with a good starter. So no, that's awesome. Um, cool, cool. Yeah, we're about 10 minutes to the hour. I know you got a hard stop in 10 minutes, so I think we covered pretty much everything here today. I'm gonna drop some more links for folks if they want to follow you everywhere on the internet, and I'm gonna just drop the links to Turso again. Um, this has been super fun. Even apologies for my clunky fingers today, but it's
You're
this
a
is a lot of
hero. You're a
fun.
hero, Nick. Like live typing is not for the faint of heart. Just
But yeah, I just want to reiterate. So we got Turso. It's a new Edge database out there. Pricing, sorry, not pricing. That scalar plan will be coming out soon. Check out the free tier. If you're enterprise wanting to partner up, hit them up for sure. And aside from that, yeah, I just want to reiterate how like quick we were able to get up and running with stuff. Obviously I installed the Turso CLI before, but it was just really quick to provision a database. We replicated it. It obviously it did a very trivial thing, just inserting some minor data there, but I don't know. I just really enjoyed the flow, and like it didn't make my brain hurt, which was nice. So
awesome.
appreciate that. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah,
All
before
right.
we wrap it up, anything else you wanted to say or cool,
Look,
cool.
it's been a pleasure. And anything that I can help any of you with, we're always in Discord, more than I should, to be honest. My wife is always complaining, but but hit us up, and we'll chat.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so definitely check out that Discord. I dropped a link there. And yeah, check out all the other places you can find Turso. And yeah, with that, next week, I believe I'm hanging out with Austin Gill from Akamai. I'm pretty
Akamai,
sure.
yes.
Yeah. Is that who Yeah, that's who. Yeah,
Sending
we're going to be.
send him my best. He's in our
Uh,
Discord channel as well. Just
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I've never met him. I've only known him from online. Somebody suggested we hang out and do a stream, so I'm excited about that. We're gonna be doing taking a peek at just doing full spectrum file uploads. So like if you've never gotten really deep into file uploads, check that one out. And yeah, thanks again, Glauber, and everybody else. See you next week.
my
And if you just don't
pleasure.
mind
See you.
staying on for 1 second there, Glauber. All right,
Okay.
later, everybody.